And you completed your BSc and MSc in zoology from University of Calcutta and moved to the University of Tennessee for your PhD. What were your early memories of moving to the US, and how did you stay mentally focused on the long time frame that a PhD requires?
Right. So, I believe, was the first one from my department at Calcutta University to leave to do a PhD. I wanted to come abroad to do research, as I mentioned, inspired by my father. He told me you have to, you should try to go abroad. And also, some of my professors, they have been abroad themselves for part of their training, mainly for their postdoctoral training after they got their PhD in India. So I was advised by many people to finish my PhD and then go, and it will be a little bit of an easier transition, an easier road. But I chose to come to do my PhD. Again, it was inspired by one of my teachers, probably um, he was a former student of my professor, and he had just returned after his postdoc, and he said, "No, you should go now." But boy, it was a shock. It was a culture shock. Um, you know, I have not really had traveled much and never ever been in an airplane. I remember not being able to open a Coke can because that time, it was bottled Coke in Calcutta, which we would have only as a reward occasionally. It's not something that you just pull from your refrigerator like nowadays. And there was no internet and YouTube, so there was an issue, of course, about my prep, my sort of mental or cultural preparation. And then the food is different. I remember like looking at the wrong side of the road trying to cross it because the cars go on the other side here. Um, so yes, but then again, it was okay. I've got this opportunity. Can I make the most out of it? Can I learn? And as much as I can, something that I that I have the opportunity now. So that is really what I would say was very was what kept me focused. Yeah, like also, yeah, I made some friends, and yeah, it was interesting. But that's exactly what life is about, right? Different experiences, and in hindsight, things came together. You know, yeah, it's you're making me nostalgic thinking about it. No, I would say it was challenging, yet it was interesting because everything was so new and trying to adapt. And yeah.
Okay. And you had the opportunity to work with Dr. Hunter at Institute. I am sure it was a life changing moment. For the benefit of our viewers, I would like to quote the following from the Salk Institute website about Dr. Hunter. Dr. Tony Hunter made the seminal discovery more than 4 decades ago that the addition and subtraction of phosphate molecules to proteins on tyrosine, one of the 20 amino acids, allows cells to control when key proteins are on standby and when they are active. He went on to show that in cancers, growth was switched to an always on mode by the malfunctions of these phosphates. Since then, his lab has led the field in understanding how chemical additions to proteins control the cell cycle and growth. How did working with Dr. Hunter influence your life?
Yeah, I mean, when I actually came to do my PhD, I believe I was still in my first year or maybe my second year as a PhD student. One thing that was wonderful in US was the students, the PhD students, get to host one of the seminar speakers. So, we have weekly seminars, and it's typically faculty that invites other faculty for talks. But I think we students could hold one talk a year, and we had to write up about who we want to hear. And Tony is somebody that I used to read articles from him when I was in India. I could not understand the papers from his lab. I didn't have the background, so I would read his reviews. And he's like the things that he would talk about and the way he wrote, about phosphorylation, about transcription, I mean, about cell cycle, he was making fundamental observations, and his lab was at the forefront of great discoveries at the time. So I was fascinated, as I said, about biology, about how things work, and I learned about transcription and transcriptional control. But then there was this new thing, protein phosphorylation, that in a very short time span can uh, it's like a switch on proteins to turn them on, off, allow them to interact with other proteins. And that fascinated me because I thought, oh, the time, because we respond super quickly, like the cell adapts to signals and responds really quickly, and transcription takes too long. Maybe this is the most wonderful thing. So I wrote an article, like competed in this student invited seminar sort of thing, proposing to invite Tony and writing something about him. And thankfully somehow my write-up was selected, and I got to host Tony Hunter. Again, I didn't even have a car. I didn't know how to drive in the US, so I had to ask my friends. And meeting this guy, and yeah, Stoney has was always like been an inspiration, and seeing him in person was really motivating. And then many years later, I ended up interviewing with him and ending up in his lab. And Tony, he's very hands off. He doesn't tell you what to do. In fact, I think he told me, "Oh, you have to pick to do something that nobody else is doing in the lab, as long as you can come up with it," something like that. So, but he built an environment where there were really great people in the lab. Joel Leverson, Han, Peter Bloom Jens. There were many people, and you learn from each other. You discuss, and Tony creates this environment. So yeah, like tyrosine phosphorylation, I think is one of the greatest discoveries of our times. Um, and it is a fundamental feature in cancer, phosphorylation going wrong, the wrong signals, crossed wires, incorrect phosphorylation, lack of phosphorylation. And there's many cancer treat drugs are kinase inhibitors. And then I'm fortunate to sort of continue this sort of association, because now at pharmacology department at Yale, the chair is Yossi Schlesinger, who crystallized this domains in kinases, and is a good friend of Tony. So in a sense, the association continues. And I was also fortunate to know the third one of this trinity that discovered signaling, Tony Pawson, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. So yeah, no, it has been uh, tremendous. Like it's beyond words. How can I express it? um, the fascination, the inspiration, the awe that I have for these people. Yet, we are almost friends, uh, friendly at least. Um, and so it's been a great experience.
So, when you were younger, did you look up to him as an idol, or did you expect to meet him going down?
Well, no, they were mythical beings, like I was reading reviews written by Tony, or here again, here goes, and this guy, he must be like, wisdom personified. So meeting them, and then you realize they are, pretty down to earth people. And um, yeah, so, but they were busy people. So it's not like in India, though, there was more of a culture where I could spend hours with my professors, like really learning. It was like the guru shishya system, sort of remnants of it. So even beyond work hours, we'd show up at their houses and spend hours. um, that is not as common here. As a student, you looked up to your professors. um, they were it's everything has its good and bad. So here it was all about the independence. So they would create an environment, create a system, but you have to be able to get it. You can't be so dependent on them. um, but of course they were there and they were, inspiring personalities. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's the way it is. But now um, when after I finished my postdoctoral work, I guess, I could approach him in slightly different way and getting to know him a little bit more.